Welcome back to Curated Clean, the podcast, where we get our hands dirty so you don't have to. We're your hosts. I'm Mike.
My name is Mandy.
I'm Whitney.
Welcome back to the show. Today, we are discussing MTHFR supplementation. Now, we already have discussed MTHFR, the gene mutation. Right. It is a gene mutation. It is not a shortened version of a curse word. Right. Although we did say that sometimes it does cause that kind of reaction to it.
Sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to talk about on this episode is specific supplementation, the kinds, the brands that we use. We're going to talk about the brands. Remember, we bought these ourselves. We're not sponsored. We're not being sponsored by these things. These are just brands that we like. There could be other brands out there that we haven't discovered yet, but in our realm of where we're located, these are easy to get, have access to, and things like that. So
we're not doctors, we're not practitioners. So remember, whatever we're telling you, you need to, if you're thinking you might want to add some of these in, you might want to talk to a practitioner yourself. Yes. Take it to them and say, hey, this is what's going on, and what do you think about this or this, supplement that was brought up to me.
And we'll try to bring up some of these supplements can only be gotten from a doctor, through a physician, through a chiropractor, through some sort of practitioner of some sort. You can't just go and buy it off the shelf at a regular store, a big box store
really
is what I would call it.
Order online either because it has to go to the physician. So
and we'll make note of that, which brands are more likely to do that. But if you go to an alternative care practitioner or doctor's office that dabbles in something other than just strictly Western medicine and works in supplementation, you should be able to get these in there. I should also preface that some of these are a little bit more expensive in their brands, but they're really nice quality and have really good results. We're going to talk about here in just a second about how we feel when we take some of these brands and what we've noticed by
I want to jump in here really quickly if I can. I used to think, back when I started taking these supplements, I would go to a big box store and I would grab some vitamins off of the shelf, and I thought I was doing myself good. And it took me a long time of realizing it wasn't really making that much of a difference. Right. I wasn't feeling any different. My symptoms weren't going away.
It just made your pee turn a different color.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. Yes.
We often say I take it over the line. I'm taking it over the line there. Some of these just literally make you feel like it's doing something different, like
I'm taking my vitamins.
Right. But you don't actually feel different.
I just want to, I think there's a quote out there, if you don't invest in your health, you're going to be investing in your illness.
Truth.
So I and my husband and I, we budget in good supplementation, and we make it a priority, just like we do with good organic, clean food, and good, good cleaning products that are toxin free. We make this. This is a high priority. Maybe we don't, buy so much new clothing, or maybe we don't do as much entertainment, so that we can afford these other things. Right.
And it's good to note that if you're a person who has MTHFR and you know that you need some really good supplementation there, because MTHFR can really impair a lot of important chemical reactions and functions in the body. Right. If you're going to invest in something, maybe we just talked about vitamin D on a previous episode. Maybe you talk about using a little bit cheaper of a product there, more inexpensive, and you invest in a little bit more money in your methylated B complex, supplementation.
Exactly. And the other thing to remember too is, I want to stress this over and over again. If you can get it through food, get it through food. And we'll talk about that in a second too. But with MTHFR, there are really good ways to get good folate through your food. Now, I would encourage you to invest in organic food, so you're not having to process even more toxins out of your body.
Correct.
But you don't have to go straight to supplementation. Now, for me, it took supplementation. I was so depleted. I was so imbalanced when I discovered that I had the MTHFR gene mutation, that there was no amount of leafy greens that I was going to shove down my throat to balance myself back out. I needed the help of supplementation. Right. And so again, you need to talk to a practitioner about this kind of a thing. But, it might be something you need to invest in. I would encourage you to spend the money on the good supplements,
And it's also important to note that every person is different.
Right.
When I had surgery done, I had bowel shock. If you don't know what that is, that's oftentimes when you've had, some invasive abdominal surgeries and they have to get pretty
Aggressive.
up close and personal, aggressive with your literal bowels.
Right.
And so when I came out, was it a goal to eat 45 cups of kale in a day? Yes, it was. But could my bowels actually, just as a whole entire digestive system, I wasn't able to process any of that. It was I was so sensitive to the breakdown. I had to overly cook food. Listen, bowel shock can last up to 1 year post-surgery. I didn't realize that until I talked to my nutritionist about it, because I said, I'm trying to eat really healthfully right after, going through surgery. And everything hurt to digest. I couldn't digest it well. I was like almost throwing up food because it was kicking it back. It couldn't digest it. So here I am, a person who had to really, really cook food. And if you think about that, you're breaking that food down a lot. Now, does that make whatever nutrition is left very bioavailable? Yes, it does. But you're also breaking down some of the
key nutrients
with it as well. So for me, and for some of you out there, supplementation is your only route. Supplementation was my only route to get it all in and to have it in a way that is easily digestible for my body to use.
Right.
So let's get right into it. So let's talk about not just supplementation. Let's talk about diet first.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're going to change your diet, what are some things that you can do that will increase folate in your diet for MTHFR?
Some really good foods, dark leafy greens. So I'm not always good, but I try to add in just like a mixed green salad every night at dinner, just because I know I need it. I mean, I still supplement, but I try to get it in my diet. So that broccoli is another good one. I'm not sure.
Almost every single morning.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I did this through all my pregnancies as well, because I was realizing for the past 4.5 years, I've either been pregnant, nursing, going through a miscarriage, or pregnant again, nursing again.
Or trying, because you should be
attempting to conceive. So that's been my life for the past almost 5 years. So my perspective had been mostly, pre-pregnancy, preparing for pregnancy. So almost every day I kind of got into this habit, and I almost crave it now, but almost every single morning I would eat a tofu scramble with heaps and heaps of kale. Tons of it. I grab it by the handful, kind of crunch it up a little bit to make it easier to cook down.
Right.
And I do that. Lots and lots and lots of that. The mixed greens, spinach, I believe even bok choy, things like that can really help.
Brussels sprouts are good
Brussels
too,
sprouts, yep. Yes.
Now, once again, I'm going to throw this in there. If you're a person who has a hard time digesting some of those things, just be aware you need to cook them down, and maybe you can't incorporate them every day. But what's the Nancy motto that I always say? A little bit of something is better than all of nothing. So instead of saying I'm not going to eat them at all because I don't digest them well, if you're also in restorative part of your healing journey where you're working back to build up that gut flora and that kind of stuff. Once again, you might not physically be able to eat this every day or multiple times a day. You might get really bloated or really gassy or have constipation or diarrhea. I know it's hard to talk about, and we don't want to talk about it, but that's the reality. If you're having those issues, you shouldn't keep doing it because your body's telling you, please stop. I can't keep up with this. I can't
Well, it
digest
doesn't mean
this.
that it won't be able to. You might have to work up to it. You wouldn't expect your body to go out and run a 10K.
Yes.
You're going to start slow. Same thing with this.
Well, I know I didn't have surgery like Michelle, but when I was going through Lyme treatment, my intestines were all kinds of messed up.
Leaky gut?
Had leaky gut syndrome. And, at the time I had a lot of food allergies that have now, since I've healed from, I can have them in their food sensitivities, I guess. But when I started out, my doctor was asking me to, incorporate more things. But again, I wasn't supposed to eat anything raw, had to cook everything. And I slowly, I just couldn't digest stuff very well.
And cruciferous vegetables are hard to digest, and that's what makes them so special. The interesting thing is they're called cruciferous vegetables because the way they're bound together looks like little crosses.
Little crosses.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Really cool.
little crucifixes.
Little crucifixes.
Exactly,
Yes.
but that also is what makes them hard to break down. But that's what gives them their special powers too. So just something to be mindful of as you move forward. Leaky gut, things like that, irritable bowel syndrome, which often goes along with MTHFR. You just have to go slow. Go slow, listen to your body, see what you can tolerate. If you do get some kickback like gassy, bloating, constipation or diarrhea, digestive upset, slow it down, start again, just back off a little bit. But my idea is add one thing in a day.
Right.
And if you can tolerate that, move on and try to be diverse. When I was younger, I could not stand Brussels sprouts, like even the smell. And then on it, Mandy, you made that one cheese dip with some like braised Brussels. Oh my gosh, those were so good. And that changed my idea of Brussels sprouts from then on.
Yeah.
I'm also a huge cabbage fan, but I have to be particular. I can't fry my cabbage. Like I can't do it in a saute pan. I have to bake it. And that baking and kind of roasting breaks it down enough that I don't have a hard time digesting anymore. But once again, a year in bowel shock, it took me a long time to be able to even incorporate that back into my diet. So be patient with yourself and, let yourself build up to your tolerance level.
Exactly.
So those are good ways to get it in your diet.
Well, another way, I was going to jump in there. Another way that I see a lot of people trying to get it into their diets is through protein supplements. You're doing your workouts. You're thinking, I'll be healthy. I'll just have a protein shake. A word of caution, because I've run into this over and over again.
I have as well,
and I have been duped even because not all the information has been laid bare. But a lot of protein supplementation, even if they mean well, you have to look at that fine print. Where is the folate coming from? Even if it says folate, look off to the side.
In parentheses, they will tell you how it is sourced. And if they don't tell you how it's sourced, don't purchase that product.
Either don't purchase it or find out how to contact the company and make them tell you where it is sourced from.
Where it's coming from. Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I bought what looked like a fantastic product. Perhaps it's, vegan or vegetarian, so my husband can have it as well. I get really excited about it. It seems like it's all sourced like from great organic, sources. And then I find out that the folate that they have on their label when I'm looking at the actual product says in parentheses folic acid. And if there's one thing that you take away from our MTHFR podcast is that if you see folic acid, you need to run away. It is your enemy, okay?
It does not help you. It impedes you.
It impedes you. It'll clog your liver. And you can, if you want to know more about why, go back, listen to that MTHFR podcast. We don't need to go into it right now, but it's not your friend, okay? And they're not being upfront with you about that,
right?
And
that falls into the beware category. Multivitamins are also notorious for this. And we've also talked about this before, marketing and packaging. It's so easy to look at something where in big bold letters in the front, it says vegan, vegetarian, naturally sourced, non-GMO, organic. You're like, yes. For somebody who, let's just throw out gluten-free here, it doesn't matter how organic that wheat is. If you can't digest it, then it doesn't matter how organic it is. So you have to turn that around, that product around, and look at the label. And let me just tell you, it is not as intimidating as it seems.
No.
You just have to know what you're looking for. In this case, what we look for, once again, not doctors, but what we look for when we are quickly looking at a supplement, especially for MTHFR, is we're looking for methylated folate in there. Where the folate, does it say folic acid or folate? If it says folic acid, I don't even look at it any further. If it says folate, I look at it off to the side, look in parentheses, where is it sourced? And then if it doesn't say that and it just says folate and it doesn't give a source, that's when I either put it back on the shelf or I try to contact the company. But those are the first things that you should do, I think, when you're going to go pick something out.
There's been some stuff that I just really, really wanted to try the product. And it wasn't clear. And so I contacted the company, and it takes a little bit more time. I think Whitney and I both had one product in particular. We won't get into it right now, but it was very unclear as to how it was sourced. And we've contacted them, and it took them time to get back to us, but they did get back to us. Most of these companies
really
want to.
Try.
They do. They want to help you. They do want to get you the answers. I have yet actually to run into any really terrible customer service. I've had a lot of actually good encounters with customer service, and they do want to help you because they want to sell their products, guys. So if they can get you information that's going to convince you to buy their product, then they're going to do it.
I think I've only had one company I was trying to buy a product from, and I contacted them because it was very unclear as to where things were coming from, and she contacted me back. Took a while, but she contacted me back and then said I need to check with our lab. Then she checked with the lab, and then from there she told me they don't really know either. So at that point, I wasn't angry. I just decided if they're not sure, then I'm just going to put it back.
If you're not sure, I'm not sure.
Then I'm really not
the lab
sure.
doesn't know. Then maybe
the lab doesn't know. Then maybe you should stop. So we've talked about diet and the difference that makes for us, what you can handle and what you can't. So let's say that you are going to switch over and you're just going to supplement. Okay. So one thing to remember with supplementation is we always say this: it's not cookie cutter. Everybody's different. So Whitney, you are MTHFR positive, but you are.
I am homozygous. So I have 2 copies.
of the C677T.
C677T.
Whitney and I are identical. I also have 2 copies of the C677T.
Right. But I am only heterozygous of the C677T, which means I only have 1 copy.
We
of
don't
the
carry
mutation.
any of the other. We don't carry any of the 1298s. And our mother is deceased. We never had an MTHFR test on her. She possibly could have been compound heterozygous, having 1 of each, but we didn't get any of that.
Our father is a heterozygous like myself. So we know that our mother had at least 1 copy.
Right.
He has 1 copy, and then we inherited the way we did.
Right. So the reason I'm bringing that up is we all take good quality B complexes, which essentially, when you talk about MTHFR and supplementing that, you're talking about B complexes, a lot of B vitamins that are methylated ready to use because it's impeded with an MTHFR person. Okay. So when we say that, I want to talk about right now, what are the differences that we've noticed when you take a supplement? What do you notice? What benefits do you see from that?
Like when you're telling someone like you really need to go and you need to get a better vitamin, and they're thinking, I don't want to spend money on this. What's their motivation? Like, what is the motivation to get a better vitamin?
What's my motivation?
Well, right. What's the motivation? And I have to admit, I thought for a while, well, what does it matter? I've only got 1 copy. You know, like what does it? You know, I'm about 30% depleted in my methylation or whatever. Is it that big of a deal? But I didn't realize how much it was. How good you could feel.
Yeah.
Exactly. For you guys who could be up to 70, 80% depleted in your methylation process, it can make a massive difference in your life, you know? Just little things for myself. I saw anxiety reduction. I saw, greater energy. I would crash every single day.
Yes.
Every single day. Whitney and I talked about that. We'd crash every single afternoon.
I get up and I'm going about my day, and then 3 hours in, I'm ready to take another nap. But
we're not alone in this. I mean,
no.
and you have to think if MTHFR is as prevalent as some scientists believe that it can be,
Then,
1 or 2 in 3 people, then all these people who tell you in the afternoon, I'm having these afternoon crashes. I got to go get my afternoon cup of coffee. That caffeine's only going to carry you so far if your issue is poor methylation,
Right.
So,
And
greater
something
energy. Oh, sorry.
I'm going to
Yeah.
interrupt and say, with supplementation, Michelle was talking about nothing is cookie cutter. Something I noticed when I very first started supplementing, I was so depleted that I couldn't even take my supplementation every day. I had to start it like every other day. Now I am a little more sensitive to some things, but I noticed my doctor was like, well, when I started taking it, I felt so anxious and ramped up that I was like, I don't think I can take this. And he was like, no, you need it. But he's like, you're so low, just take it 1 every other day. I did that for a while and then worked up to taking it every day. But so that may be a thing too. If you're just starting out and you talk with your doctor and you decide you want to start it, don't be overwhelmed if you start taking and you're feeling
that
crazy.
was
Change the dosage.
Exactly. In the MTHFR podcast that we did talk about Dr. Ben Lynch's book Dirty Genes, and he touches on in the MTHFR section how you cannot usually just jump directly into MTHFR supplementation. Not everyone responds as well. So a lot of people have reactions like Whitney did, where they'll feel jittery or
hyperactive.
Too energetic.
Too much,
Or
it's uncomfortably
it
awake.
can amp up anxiety as well.
Yes, exactly.
Once again, that is just like we talked about in diet. Sometimes you just can't change it all and go at it 100 miles an hour. I do suggest that if you're going to start with any supplementation, always start slow and build your way up. It's
Talk
always
to a
the safest.
practitioner who can help walk you through this. Find a really good practitioner who knows about this in particular, okay? And can walk you through what could happen if you take a little too much. Who's going to go slow with you, work you up to it. Might take you a couple weeks of going slow. You might feel it's ridiculously slow. It's just a vitamin, right? You don't understand how it can really, it's very, very powerful. It can really, it can mess with your sleep. You might need to take it at a certain time of day so that you don't mess up your circadian rhythms.
In the morning. If I wait and take mine in the afternoon, I won't be able to sleep. I'm awake. So I've noted, I did that one day. I was like, I forgot to take it. So it was 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, I'll just go ahead and take it now.
Right.
That was a mistake.
See, and I'm the opposite. I can take mine whenever, and I don't have any issues like that.
No, I can't take mine whenever, but I have found that mine works best with at noontime. Now, I take, like I said, I'm hypothyroid, so I take a thyroid medication first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. What I realize is kind of about the time that usually thyroid has maxed out its potency in you within 4 hours of you taking it. So oftentimes they'll tell you if you're going to get a thyroid blood draw to check your levels, you should take it 4 hours after you've taken your supplement for or your compounded whatever, your pharmaceutical for the day. because that's the highest that it's at in your body. If you're at your highest and it's still low, then we need to adjust your dosage.
Right.
But for me, what I've noticed is that by the time that thyroid is kind of at its maximum potency, when I take my B complex, my methylated, folate and all that stuff, at that time, I tend to cruise through my afternoon a lot better than when I don't
all first thing in the morning.
hitting it all first thing in the morning. If I do that, I almost feel sluggish from it. Like my body's trying to process too much. And so it actually makes me cellularly tired. And I don't know how to describe that other than I feel cellularly tired. It's like
too much of a good thing.
right.
Yeah.
It's like my brain feels fine, my body feels fine, but deep inside it feels sluggish.
Yeah.
And that's where one of those things I had to note on a piece of paper and take to my doctor and say, listen, it's not like I feel tired, but I feel tired on a cellular level. And my doctor said, oh, let's split these apart. We're probably asking too much on an electronic level of even, chemical reaction level. We're asking too much. Let's space it out and see how it goes because I'm different than other people. Whitney and I have the same genetic profile, but she does better first thing in the morning and I do better more at noontime. But I also get different benefits too.
Right.
I'm with Mandy on the I have better energy and clearer thinking. I do tend to be more calmer, but I was having dizzy spells in the afternoon. I don't tend to get as dizzy, almost like vertigo kind of feelings. I also have to chalk this up to I'm terrible at drinking water, and so I've gotten better about my hydration level. But something to note is that it didn't matter if I drank a bunch of water. If I didn't take my supplementation with it, I didn't really notice a huge difference. The other thing with me is bowel function. I know you're probably, by the time you get done listening to lots of these, you're going to go, Michaela, stop talking about bowels. But for me, it was a big deal in my life from being able to get out of them, like digest what I need, get nutrients, and also move toxicity out that I needed to get out. I had a sluggish gallbladder and sluggish liver, and that all impacted my bowel function. So for me, it's a big deal. B vitamins, B complexes, MTHFR supplementation is huge for me with my digestive tract. Huge. Because when I was in high school, I got diagnosed with IBS and they left it at that and said, get on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication and, just go from there. That wasn't the case. There was a genetic issue, but they blanketed with that and put me through lots and lots of unneeded procedures that I really didn't need, but they put me under and things that I consented to and did. But anyways, Whitney, did you want to add anything to your, what you notice when you take supplementation for that?
No, I think kind of like you guys, I definitely have better energy. I feel my anxiety level kind of go down a little bit. I do have a little bit less brain fog, I noticed too. I'm a little better able to kind of concentrate a little bit better and not feel so spacey and like I can't stay focused. So
less of a teeter-totter roller coaster for me. I tend to find that my highs aren't super, super high and my lows aren't really, really low. That kind of evens that, keels that out through the day. Our mom was one of those people that really could roller coaster through a day and cycle through really high highs and really low lows. And
which we now know is completely related to MTHFR, but at the time we had absolutely no concept.
No clue.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't talking about it then. I mean, she's been gone 8 years this year. And so, 8, 10, 12 years ago, they weren't talking about this at all. MTHFR just became big on the scene, 5 years ago or so is when they just started talking about it. Yeah. So it's just on the scene. Some of the other things I wanted to talk about with supplementation is I found a really great, we're actually going to talk about some name brands of things here. Once again, these aren't sponsored, but these are things
that we like.
One thing that I liked, Standard Process is one that I got through my chiropractor, but a lot of different practitioners carry it, but they have a veggie Complete Pro shake. It comes in like vanilla, chocolate,
Don't do the vanilla.
Well, if you don't like chocolate, I know somebody who does strawberries, literally fresh strawberries and vanilla, and they think it tastes just like a vanilla strawberry shake, like strawberry milkshake. But if you're a vanilla or if you're a chocolate lover, oh my gosh, the chocolate's delicious.
Yes,
that one has all your cruciferous vegetables that you need in a day, all in one shake in one serving.
Right.
Now, you can get gassy from that. I mean, just because it's all broken down doesn't mean you just chug it. So one thing I like to say is I mix mine with coconut milk. Some people do it just with water. But one thing that you want to consider is you don't start out with maybe the full dosage. You maybe cut it in half or cut it in quarter and, maybe mix more milk with it and see how you like it. But that was a really easy way for me to get in all my cruciferous vegetables. And they were already broken down to where they were more bioavailable. And I found that I didn't have as much bowel shock issue because I was doing that within that first year.
Right.
This was during treatment when it was imperative that I got in cruciferous vegetables. It was so important to nutritionally what my body was killing, but also what it needed to expel and, all that kind of stuff. So, and speaking of expelling, we didn't get into this a lot on the MTHFR podcast, but I do want to discuss it. MTHFR tends to use skin as a detoxing organ. We don't talk about that probably enough. I didn't realize that until I was going through active treatment. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but there were times I would have patches of skin open up and almost have like eczema-like reactions. And at one point, I even had a spot on my skin open up and it just bled for a couple of days. It almost seemed like a scrape that wouldn't heal, but there wasn't an injury to the skin. It was literally like my skin kind of opened up, drained some stuff out, and as soon as it was done after about 36 hours, it literally closed up with no scab. So we do have to talk about the importance of skin as a detoxing organ for your body, especially with MTHFR. It's not just about the supplementation here. You can supplement it and it can help, but then you got to get it out of your body.
Right. Right.
So
Exactly.
saunas are a great way to do that. We actually have access to a sauna, and I don't use it we're being honest here.
Either,
I should be using it multiple times a week, and I don't. But that's one thing I'm trying to make a schedule to get worked into it. But sweating is great for that. You should be sweating. If you're not sweating, we'll talk about later about not having a stinky summer with your sweat. But sweating is important, and especially for MTHFR, sweating is really important, getting toxic sweat off of your body. Saunas are a great way to do that. But I just want to bring that up as well, that for me, sometimes supplementation triggered that for me too. I guess that's where I was linking that back in. I started supplementation that was better, and then I noticed that like I'd have a patch even to this day. Every once in a while, if I'm purging out a lot of toxicity, I'll have a patch of skin open up suddenly, and it goes away after I've gotten that under control.
Right. So I don't know if you guys feel like jumping on in and telling everyone and some of the actual supplements that you found that you discovered that you actually maybe are using currently or have used in the past that you enjoy. My perspective, like I said, for the past 5 years, I've either been trying to get pregnant, have been breastfeeding, so on and so forth. So mostly what I have been taking are different forms of prenatals.
Which is important to denote here that just because you are done, like you've had a baby, if you're breastfeeding or even shortly after, you should remain on a prenatal.
Yes.
It is fortified in a way that is better for your body when you
it's highly recommended that you stay on it. You could talk to a practitioner about this,
or
but
your OB or whatever.
I think most midwives, OBs would agree,
gynecologists, all
that you could use those extra nutrients for probably at least a year. Especially if I breastfed my oldest for 2 years, so I kept it up the entire time. So for me, here are some options that I've actually tried, I've used, and I can recommend them. I feel to you, if you can only get to a place like a big box store, one in particular carries Honest Company prenatals. I did my due diligence. Their folate is actual methylated folate. So it's got some good ingredients. It also has last I took it, it had a nice vanilla taste to it. That might help you, might not help you if you're dealing with nausea.
I also took that brand for a little while when I was pregnant, just because I'll talk about another brand that I used that I really, really loved, but I had to ship it in. And there was a time that I couldn't get to it on time. It was important that I took that every day. So I ran to a local big box store and ran and got that because it was sitting there right on the shelf. So if you need ease and you're kind of maybe in a rural area or something and it's hard for you to get things shipped in and you've got those kind of stores, that's
exactly. And then the Seeking Health brand, Optimal Prenatal, which we've talked about Dr. Lynch, maybe too much, I don't know. But his brand, it's because you can really trust it because he is the expert in MTHFR right now. His brand is just fastidious about making sure that their products are safe for you. You can know that if you're buying from Seeking Health, these products are safe.
And he uses them on himself and his family.
Right, exactly. One that I've started using the past year and a half, I'd guess, is the Ritual brand. I brought this up in a previous episode, I believe. Vegans and vegetarians, this is your friend, because their omegas and their D vitamins and things like that are all sourced from microalgae. So those are the main things that are usually sourced from animal products and other vitamins. This is completely, I believe, vegan, if not at least vegetarian. But they will tell you where every single bit of the vitamin is sourced, right down to like the state or the country or whatever that it is sourced from. I love that they are so open about that. It makes it really easy. So I'm taking the Ritual Women's Essential prenatal every single day, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm not so certain that the numbers would be high enough for like someone who is homozygous, but if you're heterozygous like me, I feel like it's plenty of folate for me. And then another product that I recently found, definitely not vegan, not even vegetarian, sorry guys. This definitely has animal products in it, but it is called Vital Proteins. And I started taking it just out of sheer vanity because I'm getting a little older, and I thought this might be helpful for my skin and my hair and my nails. And I discovered actually that it has a blend of 18 amino acids. And if you'll remember in our MTHFR podcast, you know, part of the issue is we need folate, we need these B vitamins to help us create these amino acids in our body that trigger a million different functions and processes. So it's just a little something. It's also got hyaluronic acid and probiotic and all that good stuff, collagen, you know, all that good beauty stuff. But the side over here is that it's got these amino acids that can help you. It might help support, you know, someone with MTHFR. So...
And going off of prenatals, I've had 2 kids, and I think what I determined was, yes, the Honest Company is what I kept as my backup plan, but I really loved Orthomolecular Products, their prenatal line. It even had, now it's like 5 or 6 pills. It comes in a little foil package. You have to pop each out, but they are prepackaged to where you can just, you kind of pull off a strip of them.
I kind of like that it's all packaged for you.
It
like,
is,
you know, this is what you take every day.
And it does have separate, they have really nice omega-3s in there, and so those are all separate. I mean, I think there's 3 of the pills, and then there's 2 of the omega-3s. Now, one of the things that MTHFR can do is cause a clotting issue.
Right.
So what they'll do is either have you take, and once again, we're just talking about what doctors told us to do when we were pregnant. Some people take a baby aspirin during pregnancy to help with that. I took actually omega-3s, really, really high doses, and used them like a blood thinner. But once again, under careful watch from my practitioner, my doctor, we checked blood levels. We did all that kind of stuff.
You must let them know if you're doing this.
You must let them know.
Because this can affect how you bleed during birth, the actual birthing process.
Yes.
So it's very, very important that you talk to your practitioner about this.
Have to talk to your practitioner. So Orthomolecular Products is one that I really, really liked when I was pregnant or trying to become pregnant. What I found my 2 favorites as far as a daily is Orthomolecular Products makes a methyl B complex that I really, really like. And Pure Encapsulations is another brand that a lot of doctors,
their products.
There are some other cancer centers across the United States that in particular only use Orthomolecular Products and Pure Encapsulations. So I really like those, and they're kind of tried, true, and tested across the board. Pure Encapsulations, their B Complex Plus, is what I have determined to be my favorite. Not that Orthomolecular Products was bad, but once again, everybody is different. And so as a person who loved that brand, I didn't want to leave that brand.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I was talking to one of my practitioners, they said, have you tried Pure Encapsulations yet, that brand? And I said, no. And so I ended up getting some B Complex Plus. And let me just tell you, for me and my genetic makeup, that one, boom, it works the best for me. I feel the most calming sensation, no brain fog, energy to spare. And that's my favorite by far that I enjoy using on a daily basis.
For me, I haven't been looking into like prenatal vitamins or anything for myself, and I don't take like a daily vitamin. I take all of them kind of separately. So I honestly, I've really only tried the Orthomolecular B complex because I'm a person that when I'd taken in the past, I started feeling really jittery. So then I just felt panicked and was like, I don't want to take any at all. And so then I got scared to try any other options because my one chiropractor actually told me about Orthomolecular and had given that to me to try. And that was when I worked up slowly too. And now I like it and I think it works well, and I'm honestly too scared to try.
And if it ain't broke, don't
so,
fix it.
Exactly.
And that's another thing where if you're feeling the benefits from it, mine was I was still feeling like that like on a cellular level, I felt a little bit clogged.
Yeah.
That's why I started seeking other things. But that was after I'd been on it for a long time. I'd been on it for 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I had noticed I was writing down symptoms. One of them was when I take this, I feel just slightly sluggish on a cellular level. And then I took it to my practitioner and we discussed other options and other brands. So once again, things to consider. When you're taking a supplement, it doesn't mean that that brand works for everybody. So we're suggesting the ones that we like best. But that doesn't mean they're going to work for you. Talk closely to your doctor, your practitioner, about your nutritionist, whoever you're speaking to, about your options, different brands, which ones they like, and which ones you have access to. Because sometimes it's hard to get things shipped in and to get them on time and maybe buy 2 bottles so you have one sitting on your shelf. You don't want them going bad, but at the same time, you want to take these every day. If you're not taking them consistency is key. And we'll talk about pill fatigue on another episode, but consistency is key with these. They really do. The benefits are very intense when a person is positive for MTHFR. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to it. We offer places that you can get testing for that, ways to talk to your doctor, and also places that you can check off the boxes of, do you think you have MTHFR? And if you do, ways to figure it out and get support for those things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to add?
I don't think so. I mean, you might find something out there that you want to maybe bring to our attention. We want to interact with you guys. So if you find something that's worked for you or that you would like us to test out for you, please let us know. We are more than willing to do that. That's what we want this to be. We want to create a community with you and be able to address your ideas and your concerns as well.
So like we always say, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time. We know it's precious, and thank you for giving it to us and sitting in on MTHFR supplementation, diet changes, things you can do to support an MTHFR diagnosis. Once again, we love to quote Dr. Lynch, just because your genes may be a little bit impeded doesn't mean that that's a death sentence or that you aren't going to have a fully functioning life. You just have to supplement where you need to supplement and change your diet. And listen, those aren't that big of a deal in the broad scheme of things. So hang in there with us. We're enjoying our supplementation and feeling the benefits from it. And you can too. So thank you again for tuning in. We appreciate your time. And like we always say,
be healthy,
be well,
and God bless you.